Housekeeping items, if you have your cell phone on, if you don't mind silencing it, and if you need to have a conversation, then we encourage you to go outside. We have an interesting agenda tonight, and by popular demand, we invited the State Insurance Commissioner, Gordon Ito, who flew in for tonight's meeting, so we're very happy he'll be here to help with some update information and with any questions. But first, we're going to start with having Mayor open the meeting. And then we'll continue on with our speakers, and then we'll take questions at the end of their updates to all of you. Mayor Bisson.
Aloha, Kula, and welcome, and thank you for welcoming us to your place and letting us come and have this meeting with you. It's been a few weeks since we were up here last, so I'm sure there have been some changes. I know, I believe, I don't want to steal anybody else's report, but I think we're going to hear on the completion and how things have gone and maybe the next steps. Our focus is going to be starting to change, obviously more down to Lahaina, where we already started the cleanup there. But again, that's also something that will come up later in our report today. I wanted to thank Commissioner Ito for coming in today, because I know there have been lots of questions asked, and I think that might end up being one of the big focus because of the stage that you folks are at up here in Kula and what you're ready to do. You're going to hear more about the Office of Recovery, and in that Office of Recovery, you're going to hear a little bit about the expedited permitting. And I would imagine that's another subject that you folks want some information on. So we will try our best to answer those questions tonight. I do think myself and Josiah, who's the head of the Office of Recovery, not here tonight, are going to have to announce and discuss the policy on when people can get their permits. When can they apply for them, and when will they take effect? And let me explain this in a second, or real briefly. So we have our old system right now where anybody can apply for a permit. Anybody on Maui can apply for a building permit. And then we're going to have the expedited one that hasn't started up yet, because we're trying to get a contract with an outside contractor to come in and handle all of those reviews and try to obviously expedite that. And that's for the folks in Kula and Lahaina that are impacted by this. So the question asked by everyone at these meetings is, if I put mine in now, will you take mine before the person who applies under the new expedited office? And we will get that answer to you. Because that is the question that we get asked. If we apply now, are you going to keep us in the old system and we have to reapply in the expedited system? If we're in expedited, are you going to take the guy who applied before me into the old system? I could take a poll, but I think I know what most people would say is we timestamp it. The person who applied first has done so before, and we take everybody out of the old system, put them in the new system automatically if you're a victim. That is what we're leaning towards. Unless there's something we're not allowed to do, we'll check with our lawyers and any other folks, but I think that's kind of where we're leaning, but we've not finalized that. All right, Mahina, thank you, everybody.
Much taller than me. So tonight you're going to hear from our federal partners with their update, and it has been a while. So happy to see all of you, and we are live streaming as well, and mahalo to Akaku for being here. And all of these live in perpetuity on our social media pages as well as on Akaku, so we can always go back and review any part of it. But we're going to hear from FEMA, from the SBA, Small Business Administration, the Army Corps of Engineers will give us an update. We'll hear a little bit from Aaron Wade about the right of entry, and Fire Chief Brad Ventura is here this evening as well. And we'll do all of that before we hear a little bit of sharing from Keanu Lauhi, Deputy of the Office of Recovery, and also our Deputy Managing Director for the County of Maui. And then we'll invite Commissioner Ito to give an update, and we'll take question and answers. So at this time, can I have FEMA, and I'll ask our partners to introduce themselves and go ahead and give your update. Thank you.
Thank you. And then, Thank you. My name is Curtis Brown, Deputy FCO here on Maui. As the mayor mentioned, it's been a few weeks since we've given you an update. I don't want to steal Colonel Curry's thunder. I did it last Wednesday at the Lahaina meeting, so I'll leave it to Colonel Curry to talk about phase 2 and the conclusion of that, and then what it means for you operationally with the Corps. So I'll focus strictly on housing and then rental assistance. And so as we've stated over the last several weeks prior to the rain delays, we've been trying to increase the number of units available for temporary housing. And so we've reached out to, we have 3 property management companies that are reaching out to secure vacation rentals or short-term rentals. So far, we have 1,130 recipients with just under 100, just over 100 licensed in, and that number is increasing every week. And so the goal truly is to get everyone housed within the next 45 days to 2 months. I'm not sure how that impacts Kula in this community here, but just to give you an idea, we are increasing those numbers. We are licensing folks in. At the last meeting on Wednesday, I talked about background checks. So there's 3 property management companies requiring background checks. And so there was some concern from displaced households about going through a background check. And at the last meeting, I spoke to that it's required that we do a background check. Don't worry about failing the background check, because if you do fail the background check, FEMA will secure a unit for you under our program, not necessarily under the 3 property management companies that we've contracted with. As far as rental assistance, we have, what do we have here? Only 530 have applied with 250 approved and 61 applications pending for continued rental assistance. And there was a question at the Lahaina meeting regarding the alternate living expenses on your insurance policies. And so the way that works is that you'll get that as a line item on your insurance, and FEMA can't provide you assistance until all that money is exhausted. So once that money is exhausted, you can come back to FEMA at the 1-800-621-3362 number, or what I would do if I were you is go straight to the DRC and talk straight to one of the FEMA staff that we have working there regarding your case. So you can either get additional rental assistance from FEMA and or be provided one of the housing units that we'll have coming up within the next couple months. And so my advice to you that if you're in a situation, anything with housing has to do with housing, is call that 1-800-621-3362 number, or visit the DRC so we can help you out if you're eligible for FEMA programs. Thank you, and we'll turn it over to the Corps to give an update on where we are here in Kula.
All right, thank you, Curtis. Again, for those that are online or don't know me yet, so I'm Colonel Jess Curry. I'm the commander here on Maui for all the Corps of Engineers recovery efforts, both here in Kula and in Lahaina. So again, really since the last time we met, I mean, no surprise, but I'm pleased to report that we did complete all the properties that were entered into the federal program. Those properties again started, again last year. I mean, when we talked about that window in November when those properties started, and again really wrapped up just in the last few weeks. The properties themselves were done really that first week in January, and then we had some final trees to remove and to mulch. But that was really the final step. So where we stand right now for those 25 properties is those rights of entry have been given back to the county. So really at this point, the Corps of Engineers no longer has any legal right to come onto your properties unless you invite us for a cup of tea or something like that. But we've turned that back over to the county, and we are finalizing all the paperwork for those property reports. So again, what I would say about the whole process, and now looking back on it, I'm very proud of a few things. I'm very proud of the work that the Corps team did and the contractors on site. We were not perfect by any stretch, but I'm proud of how they continued to improve throughout and reacted well to those things that, as we learned. So I'm very proud of them. I'm proud of the community members and thankful for the members of this community that worked with us through those processes and, and held us accountable, but also supported us as we worked again through challenges. And, every property was different, and, some were more challenging than others. If you were in the neighborhood, and one of the last properties we did was where you had to have the big crane to remove debris from the bottom of the bottom of the hillside there. That was a significant effort for us. But again, appreciate the community's support and interaction throughout this process. The last thing I want to mention, and I just want to publicly thank, Council Member Sukimura for not only supporting this community as well as she did, but really also supporting us and helping us through those challenging days. And, ultimately, whether it was a pat on the back or, again, just being upfront and clear and telling us what the concerns were, and so that we could know we could know them and could address them. Really, really tremendous to work with, and thankful for that. As we look moving forward, so we're not going anywhere. Continue, got a big mission in Lahaina in front of us. That process has started. We started last week. I think as of today, and I'll look for my team, and we're there. I think as of yesterday, we had 6 properties in Lahaina that all the debris had been removed, and we've done the testing. But those teams are quickly expanding and moving fast. So as we look at that way ahead for Lahaina, again, many challenges in front of us. But again, we don't want to miss how thankful we are for the support we received up here, and again, continue to be ready to support this community as going forward. If again, as those challenges continue to come up. So I would ask, as we think about how you can support the community in Lahaina, if you're willing to do that. But really, our process that we've followed throughout this, the residents here and the community members here know that process better than anybody else. So, certainly not asking you to go out of your way to reach out to people in Lahaina, but as you have opportunity and people may ask you questions, hey, you're from Kula, do you know how the removal went? And I'll just ask you to be honest with them, even if there's parts of it you weren't happy with, because those are things we want to improve, every chance we get. So I'll stop there and just again say thank you, and again we'll remain here for questions, and we'll remain here for support even after this meeting and the ones that come. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel.
Before we do SBA, I'll ask Erin to come up since it's relating to that. Erin, wait.
Thank you. The most common question we've been asked recently related to Kula's closeout is, will I get a copy of my closeout package? So if you would like a copy of the closeout package, that's what Army Corps sends to the county when debris cleanup is complete. It's basically a cover sheet that is a certificate that says it's deemed clean, that the property has been deemed clean, and then there's a series of photographs attached to that. You're welcome to receive that if you would like. What we're trying to do right now is create a forward-facing map where you can actually click on the property and download that. That is still in development, but if you would like it now, I'm happy to give it to you. I brought a stack of business cards. You're welcome to email me or call me and ask for that, and I'll send it directly to you. By the time we get to Lahaina, that'll be a forward-facing function that'll be available to anybody. What it doesn't include, though, is the specific soils report. So if you would like the specific soils report, you'll need to call Army Corps of Engineers directly. So I just wanted to reiterate that phone number. It's 877-214-9117. 877-214-9117. That is on the website where it says Army Corps of Engineers Call Center. So you can call that. They'll give you the soils report for your particular property. If there was a rescrape, so it'll show original testing. Then if there was a rescrape because one or more elements were detected, it'll show what was there after the rescrape. So all that information is available if you want it. I just wanted to underscore what Colonel Curry said. We So when we started out with this was a process that probably would have taken the county 2 to 3 years to build, if we're being honest. And we built it in 2 to 3 weeks with your help. And we're just really grateful that you allowed us to kind of beta test with you. And continuing forward too, you will still be sort of the benchmark for us with Lahaina. Getting emotional because you guys have been amazing. So anyway, thank you. Please stay in touch. Anybody that wants my card, please take it. And if things come up that you think, ooh, this is still coming up for us and it might help you with Lahaina, please reach out. It's an iterative process and we want to be as supportive as we can. Thanks.
Thank you. I'd like to call up a representative from SBA, and then we'll hear from Chief Ventura.
Aloha, my name is Elena Lamali, and I am a resident of Maui working with the Small Business Administration. I actually helped Kyle. I've actually helped Kyle in the early days after the fire with rubbish cleanup on fire properties and got some family out there. But I just want to share about the grace period that is ending on Thursday, and this is for homeowners, renters, small businesses, nonprofits to apply for physical disaster loans. Anything after this deadline will require an explanation as to why you were unable to apply beforehand. And just to give you a number, we have approved a little over $290 million in loans. So we still please encourage you guys to apply. Even if you're not going to take it, your application is in there and it's an option at the end of the day. So we encourage you all to visit our customer service representatives. We have people at the Lahaina Civic Center. We have another disaster recovery center in Kihei at the Maui Research and Technology Center. And then we also have a partnership with the Kahului Public Library, and we're stationed there as well. And you can visit us online, sba.gov/disaster to apply. Thank you, guys.
Notice how we all get excited when she says, I'm from Maui. So, good job, SBA. Appreciate that. We had a particular interest with understanding smoldering underground situations. So we asked Fire Chief Ventura to join us this evening to talk a little bit about it. Chief?
Aloha, good evening. First off, I want to say thank you for having me and giving me this opportunity to share with you all. And the second thing is just a big mahalo to the Kula community. We've been working side by side with you since midnight, August 8th. And everybody's affected up here. And had Lahaina not happen, this is still a national disaster up here. So we want you guys to all recognize how important this area is to us for all of you. And I live up here too, but that's not the point. And really, it's been a partnership because we can't be everywhere all the time for everybody, especially as widespread as this fire was from Olinda all the way down to Puleoiki. So thank you to all of you who called into us, continuously when there was concerns that we could address. It really helps us get to the hot needed places that need to be taken care of first off. So we've had some beautifully blessed rain the last couple of weeks. So I think we're all loving that. That means it's kind of double-edged sword because now our fuel is growing back, right? So now it's about fuel management and fuel mitigation. But some of the questions that we've had come our way is about the hotspots. Even in my backyard, I had fire as recent as December 2nd. So it's underground, it's undetectable to the naked eye. It's organic materials such as trees, roots, trimmings from old, when you kind of cleared your lot or not, or your neighbor did, and then buried in dirt and soil. So what happens is the trees and the roots start to burn, and it kind of burrows underground, creates an underground imu. And then over time we have erosion, right? We have rain causes erosion, wind causes erosion, and then that exposes this organic material that's just slightly smoldering to more oxygen, and then we get these flare-ups and fires. So what can we do about it? Really, like I said, we can't detect it. But your home's the best. When you come home in the evening, and there's a slightly greater than normal smell of fire, maybe some smoke that you're like, that's not normal. You're already kind of getting your interest peaked, and you're already thinking something out here, I should go walk my property and take a look at it. That's the time to actually just call us. Just call 911 and ask us. All of our trucks, and Kula here, and I've spoken to the crews as well, we have a thermal imager on board. It works best with contrast. So if it's cool in the morning and cool in the evening, and then there's a hot spot, it's going to show contrast. And the greatest contrast is easier to see. If you call us at noon and the sun's beating down and heating up the earth, it's going to be less contrast and it's harder to find. But it's an opportunity for us to take advantage of you knowing your property, you being aware of what's abnormal today that wasn't around the last week, 2 weeks, or month even. So if you know of areas that on your property that are smoldering or potentially smoldering, really what we need to do is dig them up. Sometimes it's as easy as a shovel and getting to work at it, and sometimes it's about bringing in excavators and really spending hours on it. We've had hot spots where we spend days on at times. And what we do is, if we come out, if you call us and need our assistance, we'll come in. We use a foam, and it has no PFAS in it. And so we use that in our wildland firefighting. And what it does is it penetrates into the woods, and it penetrates into the material a lot better than water does. So it'll kind of suppress the fire for a longer period, and it creates less opportunity for the fire to kind of rekindle or stay alive. So if you have any of those types of situations on your property where you have known buried debris or something that is just abnormal for the day, we've had lots of calls. We've had probably just in the last 2 months, we did a quick fact check. We've done probably close to 3 dozen just good intent calls, which is a neighbor calling, I smell smoke, we come on out and we don't find anything. But you know what? That's okay. Call us. It's better to call us. And then on top of that, we probably had over 1.5 dozen of those fires actually break surface and ignite out there. So they are still there. If you do any type of clearing of your property, just housekeeping and whatnot, we recommend try to take it to the best, green waste location around. If you don't have access to one or a truck, then just be cognizant of where you put this. If you're putting stuff on, what we know as mineral soil or final grade where it's not going to have some dirt and not have debris underneath it, then you'll have less chance of that tree trimmings igniting. And that's what happened recently in Kula. I think some tree trimmings got put on a hot spot, and when it finally emerged, then the whole pile of tree trimmings caught on fire. So it was a lot bigger than it could have been. The couple of other things I just wanted to share with you, and please take with you if any of you want tonight. I'll leave this stack here, and the last person leaving, just bring it back if there's any left over. But our Ready, Set, Go program, which is an evacuation and a preparedness program for wildfires, it's very thorough. A lot of work's been put into it, and it's a way for you to prepare your home for the next wildfire. It's a way for you to prepare yourself for the next evacuation. It's been worked on with all state partners and Hawaii Wildfire Management Organization, who's become very, very popular since August 8th. But they're a great asset. So we should utilize the type of things that have been out for 2 or 3 years that we haven't been giving enough attention to, but we should give more to. And then lastly, our Fire Prevention Bureau. They have probably nearly 3 to 5 times the amount of requests that they normally do right now, as expected. So if any of you have calls out to them, I just ask for a little bit of grace and patience. They're keeping track of all their calls. They're trying to get to everybody, but sometimes prior to August 8th, they might have been able to respond within a week or 2, and now it's taking 2 weeks or 3 weeks just because of the volume that they're dealing with. What they can do for you is not only look at fire code, and a lot of times you'll be disappointed. The fire code, it doesn't mean every neighbor's tree has to be cut down. It's not really going to address every concern we have in every community. But we'll look at the fire code, and we'll look at the potential fire hazard, and we'll work with both neighbor and landowner to try to come up with the best solution. There's we have a program, and it's the only program in the state. We started about 1.5 years ago. We call it our WUI program. WUI stands for Wildland Urban Interface, and that's where these big wide open fields and forests meet our homes. And that's that interface. That's the area where we try to make things as safe as possible, because the fields will burn, things will happen, and it can carry through that area very quickly, as we saw on August 8th. But if we can harden our homes and make things safer, it'll have less possibility of having ignition on your home, even if you're not there. So feel free to go through that book, take it with you, call us if you have any questions. Our Fire Prevention Bureau is working hard with Hawaii Wildfire Management Organization, doing home inspections and trying to get communities fire-wise. So I'll answer questions when we're all done, I'm sure, but thank you for your time. Appreciate y'all.
Thank you, Chief. Just the month before last, Mayor Bisson announced the establishment of the Office of Recovery. So we wanted them to introduce themselves to you. The director was not available this evening. As you know, we had to cancel last week, but we do have the deputy with us tonight. So you'll get to meet her a little bit and she'll share a bit about the Office of Recovery. And then we'll move on to Commissioner Ito. And her name is Keanu Lauhi.
I was willing to say my name, but since we all kind of brought it home, I just want to say my mother-in-law was a teacher here at this school for many, many years. She taught second grade. Mrs. Lauhi, see, some of you know it. And I lived right up the road for 8 years and more when I first moved to Maui and got started building my family. So the complexity of the recovery is acknowledged on our level, the state level, as well as the federal level. And so Mayor Bisson established the Office of Recovery. And with that, we understand our mission is to develop a long-term recovery plan. What maybe is not knowledgeable to some of you is we've done some work already. And I want you to know that the long-term recovery plan does include the upcountry areas. And so what we've conducted thus far is we did do a joint county, state, and federal recovery needs assessment to address some of the areas we know, like obviously we're not talking about some specific areas for Lahaina up here, but watershed and some of what Chief mentioned, mitigation activities that we can incorporate into the long-term recovery plan. So just wanting to highlight that is of mind for our team that's building your recovery plan with you. And in the future months, we will have engagement activities as we start kicking off this long-term recovery for you folks to kind of discuss like what are some strategies you folks see that we can implement and incorporate. Some of these documents, our guiding documents, our foundations are available on the mauirecovers.org site if you're interested in taking a look. You can also reach out to us if you have specific things you want to discuss about your recovery. If you're ready to get started now, some of our staff's ready to receive some information. Oh, I forgot all about my job with the slides. So anyhow, okay, so Mayor kind of did some of my job for me, so awesome. So the Office of Expedited Permitting is coming soon. Yes, what I can tell you for a lot of you folks, you're a lot ahead of our Lahaina community in which you're probably starting to think about rebuilding. So what we can tell you is that we issued an RFP. Mayor mentioned the regular building process is 300+ days to get a building permit. We know we needed to do something different. So in consultation with others who have unfortunately have the same experience as us with this devastation, our Department of Public Works issued an RFP to bring on a vendor to help us augment the existing system and look at opportunities to expedite review. So the RFP closed on January 8th. The selection committee is in current process of doing vendor interviews, so we can't talk a lot about the scope and what have you. And vendor selection is slated to happen February 16th with hopes to be operational this spring. So that kind of gives you an idea of insofar as what we're looking at. We're going to come back to you with information on how you apply, what qualifies you for the expedited review, what we think as far as the turnaround. Similarly to what Erin mentioned before, you folks are a group that we can start moving through the process first to see, hey, that's really not working. We have to change some things. So just wanted to share that with with you folks. Okay, so what we're going to start doing is moving into the recovery discussions. And I'm going to hand it over to Mahina now, who can talk about what that engagement might look like in the future.
Okay, clearly I need clicker training. So now that we have reached this stage, we have a lot of opportunities for Kula. That's going to be different for Lahaina. So while we concentrate on Lahaina's recovery, and we'll see more of our friends from Army Corps in that vicinity, we wanted to understand more what we can do for Kula. So you'll see us next week. We'll be asking for your input on what the needs are going forward, and really working with your council member who has been at the forefront. So Council Member Yukile Sugimura will be returning to regular meetings, maybe a little more often, because we kind of took over and just really addressed what was going on. But we also know that there's a great interest in resiliency work. And so we have the Kula Community Watershed Alliance also willing to step in and highlight some of those needs and host whatever the resource discussions that need to occur. So double the opportunity going forward for Kula now that we've completed the operational side of the incident here up country. But at this time, I wanted to also encourage you to use this QR code. We'll leave this up so you can come after the meeting. We're just trying to start the early gathering for what you all feel is going to be helpful going forward for the Kula community that we can support in, and to also help guide any gatherings that council member will do, as well as the Alliance and their continuing discussion. At this time, I want to bring up Commissioner Gordon Ito from the State Insurance Office, or Office of Insurance. I'm not sure. I'll let you explain what it is. And then we'll go ahead and take questions from all of you here. And tonight, we don't have the remote mic or the mic without a cord. So we'll have to have you actually come up and use that mic when you have a question later. Gordon?
Well, good evening. I just, before I get into talking some of the new handles that we have done, I just wanted to kind of provide a perspective in terms of what we've done from the day after the fire. On August 8th, we were just devastated, and our sympathies continue, for the Maui community. I mean, for Kula as well as Lahaina. I mean, it's even now, I just thinking about what everybody's going through, it's just very difficult, and I can't comprehend really what everyone has been through. But from the day after, I had gathered my staff and say that we got to pull together and provide whatever assistance we can give to the Maui community to help them get back on their feet. And so on August 9th, I issued this emergency declaration that allowed emergency adjusters to come in. And I was trying to look at my calendar, but I'm losing track of time. But I think the following Thursday was my first flight over to Maui. And then, my concern was trying to help assist getting the DRC up and running. And then they were talking about the mega DRC. So we're there, the insurance division. We're there from the day after the DRC had its soft opening. And we were there all the way, every single day, up until January 5th at the Lahaina Civic Center. I mean, we've been staffing. We got fellow regulators from other states like California, Colorado, Alaska, New Mexico. There's a whole bunch of those states that had gone through wildfire. There were 2 people every day from the other states to provide assistance and guidance on the wildfire. My staff, I'm so proud of my staff because 40% of my staff volunteered to staff the DRC for the first month and a half, every single day. And what that involved, right? We did a triage. We divided several of the key people to come up with FAQs and questions, coordinate the action from the insurers and encourage, I mean, from day one, I told the insurers, especially in Lahaina where it's just total devastation, right? That if it's a total burned out unit, my expectation is that you pay your claim and don't dispute it, right? From day one, I made it clear to them. Just before the DRC opened, I set up some meetings on Maui. We met with some insurers. They were already planning and they were bringing in people to open their, like the tents, the pop-up things. So I know the week after there were some insurers on the ground already to provide assistance in getting in the claim. But going back to my staff, 40% of my staff, from clerical people to people who really are just financial analysts or examiners, not so much rate and policy provision. We did training for those people to volunteer to come and staff the DRC. And what that involved is getting up at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, going to the airport, catching the first flight here, going to the DRC, trying to get there by 8 o'clock opening, staying until 9 o'clock flight or 8 o'clock flight and flying home, getting home at 10. Like I'm getting home about 10 almost tonight. And Mayor Bisson, FEMA, SBA, I mean, everybody, I really kudos to everybody for really moving this community and Maui along. I mean, it's heartwarming. Anything we were trying to do to provide assistance. I was in traffic for 2 hours as President Biden was in Lahaina. I was trying to get to Lahaina because the Whalers Village was kind enough to offer us a space and I wanted to open what I call the Insurance and Banking Assistance Center. So we ended up doing that the end of August weekend and the Labor Day weekend to provide assistance and help getting people. The first stage is really getting people to contact their insurance companies and agents and file their claims. That's really the first things we were trying to encourage. And as you folks are well aware, and into probably through the debris removal, we've created other guidance in terms of how does the insurance play with debris removal and maybe in terms of the reimbursement. So we've done, I'm just so proud of my staff. Just as of November 30th, we've been doing every 2 weeks data calls in terms of the claims that have been filed on the personal property side. There's been claims for dwelling and housing and condos, $1.6 billion in claims at the end of November now. We're going to come up with a December 31st data call update. But at the end of the November 30th, out of the $1.6 billion claim, nearly $1.2 billion have been paid. About 73% of the property loss have been claimed, personal property have been claimed. For motor vehicles, which is to me quite amazing, there's about $30 million loss. Over $29 million, or 97% of the claims have been paid and closed. And so I'm very encouraged in terms of what the insurance companies have done in trying to get the claims closed and monies to all of you. So just with that, I'm open to any questions you have.
Okay, I think. Okay. I think this is a good segue into the Q&A portion. So just again, we don't have the cordless mic. So if you have a question, we're going to have to ask you to come up here unless this mic can reach you. But since Gordon is up here, is there a question for the insurance commissioner? And not that we're not going away right after the meeting, we'll still be around. Oh, you did such a good job.
No. Well, before getting to the question,
I think this will reach you. Hang on
I'd
a
just
second.
like to again mention this specific things. One is understanding insurance and debris removal and the interplay. So you can find that on our website. I made copies. They're at the table right here. So please grab a copy if you have any questions. At any time, if you have questions, really feel free to call our office at 808-586-2790, because we're here to help, in any way we can.
First of all, thank you for coming here, Commissioner Ito. I just want to follow up with the letter that you sent out to all the insurance company. That was on September 14th, and suggesting that they extend the ALE to 3 years. And I just wonder if there's anything after your letter, because it's been 4 months since the letter, and that's a long time. And have you heard anything from the insurance company concerning the letter you sent to them?
Well, some of the, some companies, there's quite a bit of insurance companies that have claims, right? But the larger companies, some of them have indicated that they're intent to comply. But there's other companies on ALE, it's the additional living expense. It's a little tricky in a sense, because I know one consumer had called our office and say, oh, my company's not approving the ALE, the extension up to 3 years. And it really varies on the policy and how that ALE benefit is provided for. So I called the company up and say, how come you guys are not extending it up to 3 years? And so their response was, in their policy, it specifically said that the ALE was up to a year coverage, but there was no monetary amount limit, right? And so that's how, in terms of some companies on the ALE, that's how they limit how much benefit potentially is paid for ALE. While others might have no limit, and they might be willing to extend that benefit, or the benefit doesn't get exhausted in the year, right? So it really varies on the policy and what the provisions are. And so that's the response that we've been getting. If people are not happy or don't trust their insurance companies, or don't, again, really, you're welcome to call our office, and we'll look at your policy and the benefits and see.
Yeah, my point is are you, as an insurance commissioner, going to accept that as a reason why they don't extend the additional living expenses?
Okay, so one of the, I guess, the misconceptions, right? So there's two main things that I've asked the companies to voluntarily extend. The ALE is one, right? Drawing a blank, but I don't have the authority or the payment of personal property without the inventory sheet. Okay. So I don't have any kind of authority statutorily or legally to mandate companies to do anything. Other states like California and Colorado, after their wildfires, they've introduced legislation and passed laws that mandated, like, say, payment of 75% of personal property coverage, or 60%, right? And so they have the legal authority to mandate that. We don't have that in Hawaii. I cannot mandate companies. The other misconception is the insurance division will assess, and as best as we can, see and make sure that companies are in compliance, and in particular with Article 13, with unfair deceptive trade practices and claim payment practices. But we are not the court, right? We don't interpret it policy, contract provision. It's the judiciary, the court system that decides disputes and interpretation of insurance contracts. So we can provide as much assistance as we can within what we think is the guidance and what we think is proper practices, but we do not make interpretations, and we do not judge and make the decision in terms of what contract provisions control or not.
I just wonder, is Hawaii is any different than California or a state of the United States? And after the wildfire, that was within a month, maybe a week, that they got the extension in ALE. I got 2 pieces of press release that they allowed them to extend up to 3 years. So My question is, are we different than California, that we cannot do something, the same thing that California did?
So the legislative session just started last week, Wednesday, right? And so I can tell you there are many bills, especially property and casualty bills, that are proposing such things like that.
Okay.
Like that, the extensions.
Because they did have bill in Senate, they passed it
Yeah.
to extend the ALA plus up to 75% minimum of the property
Yeah.
insurance, still without itemizing it.
But so let me talk about the personal property, right? Again, like ALE, every company has different provisions with respect to content coverage, right? And so some companies, I want to say ironically, but as a result of some of the wildfire, like California wildfires, where they felt that their insured were very significantly underinsured for personal property, came up with policy provisions that allowed coverage up to 75% of your building coverage, the coverage A, the dwelling coverage. But that doesn't mean that they're going to automatically give you 75% of the, and there's a requirement on time in terms of inventory. A lot of people are saying we should do that, automatically mandate the 75%. But when I think about content coverage and the personal property, right, the 75%, and just simplistically using a $500,000 dwelling coverage A. If you had $500,000 coverage A for your rebuilding of that dwelling, 75% of 500,000 is $350,000. That would be for content coverage.
But it says 75% minimum up to 100%, but 75%
It
minimum.
really, again, depends on policy, but just using that example, insurance is supposed to make you, as best as you can, help you recover and become whole. It's not intended to be a betterment, to make you better than what it was, right? So if you had content coverage or personal property coverage up 75% of your dwelling, that means, do you have $350,000 in personal property that you lost? If they were mandated to pay 300, but you only really had 200,000, then you're gonna have a windfall of $150,000 that you never owe, right? And so that's not the intent of insurance. So that's why, in terms of thinking about that, we have to be careful on that, because we have an insurance fraud bureau, investigation unit. And for example, if I'm not talking about this situation, but if someone had a loss and they filed and their home had, like, say, laminate countertop, but then they claim that their countertop that they lost was granite, right? And you find out it was really laminate, right? That's insurance fraud. Right? So you have to think about, the whole picture, right? And so it's easy to mandate. And so that's why some states have mandated like 50% or 60% of personal property, not 75% or even 100%. As I got a letter from an attorney, asking me to mandate 100% coverage and payment without doing the inventory sheet. But that's, some of the considerations.
That's a separate issue
Yeah.
with the ALE. And my concern really is the ALE, because the fire was August the 8th, and this is January, and it's 5 months. And a lot of us, as you stated in your letter, that 12 months coverage we have. And you heard earlier, the permit process alone, it was 300, but now we're going to try to expedite, which is great news.
Yeah.
So we're running out of time. And the money that we're going to have to spend to pay for the rent, it's going to come out of a rebuilding budget. And that's not going to help us to reconstruct our house. And also not knowing what's going to happen. So we are in a limbo as to, can I spend that money to build this? Or do I have to downsize it to save money for for our living expenses. So appreciate it if we can get some clearance. Because this letter, the letter you sent out September 40 is still floating out there. I talked to my insurance company. They said, we have the letter. I said, are you going to honor that? They say, we don't know. So it make us, now just put yourself in our position that we want to build a house. We got to know how much money we can spend.
Yeah.
But without knowing that, we can't decide on, oh, let's build this house or that house. So they appreciate it. It's some decision
Yeah.
in the main.
So believe me, I mean, that's the very reason why I issued that memos, right? Asking the companies to extend ALE up to 3 years, because I know this is going to be a long process, right? I mean, a long time to recover. And so really, that's really why I asked the companies to do and extend the ALE. The ALE and FEMA in the back. The ALE, and just let me talk a little bit about what the ALE and those that, you know, particularly the hotels and things that may have indicated when they came in through the DRC or filled out with FEMA, indicating that they had insurance coverage. So we're actually working with HIEMA and FEMA to try to get, and I've written a letter to all the companies that are, we got a list of insureds that indicated they might still have insurance coverage. And they are, if they do, and they have, or if they have exhausted it, but they haven't turned in any form indicating they exhausted the ALE, and so they might not be able to receive housing until they get that form. We're working with the insurance company. I've written to them, tell them to check on the policy and contact the policies to indicate whether they exhausted the benefits or not, so they can provide that form to FEMA. So we're working on that. So the ALE is a little, it's complicated issue. So I just wanted to bring that up. So if you know anybody in that situation, please encourage them to contact their company, especially if they exhausted the ALE and are in housing at the present time.
Commissioner, could you just explain what the acronym ALE stands for?
Additional living expenses.
Okay, additional living. Is there any other questions here that we can ask Commissioner from our state insurance office to help with? Okay, any questions for our other speakers that we can help with? And of course, we'll be here after. I'm definitely not trying to rush you. Okay, do you have, okay, I'm gonna let Kyle, yep, sorry, no cordless this one, but you can come here. Just be careful when you put it.
Is you okay?
Yes.
Hi, thanks everyone for being here. Just real quickly before my question, I just want to let you know that the QR code, when you scan it, it says it's not accepting responses. So if you want people to do that, look into that. I'm Kyle. I'm the executive director of Kula. Most of you know me in here. I still spend 5 to 6 days a week on burned properties, cleaning them up myself and some of our volunteers. And the main point that I want to make tonight is simply that even though, you know, we've heard from Colonel Curry, from the Army Corps, we've heard that they're done, Kula is not clean. And since phase 2 finished, I personally and our volunteer crew, we've removed over 7,000 pounds of scrap metal from burned properties. I'm working on vacant lots that are still covered in toxic ash. I was just there today. Just today, I had a 40-yard roll-off bin delivered to clean up a property that is not being cleaned up by FEMA or the Army Corps, which sits directly between 2 houses that were, but it's not being cleaned up. I've stood on properties in Alanui Lily Place that have right of entry, that their areas just got missed. There's structural debris, there's fiberglass, there's arsenic ash. I know because I'm pulling burned pieces of rebar out of the ash and then realized that was probably a bad idea. So I left. We're cleaning up dozens of downed trees. We've probably removed 20 tons of green waste and chipped it in downed trees. This is all since phase 2 finished. And we're nowhere close to being done. So my question is simply, oh, and on top of that, we've conducted independent wipe tests as well of homes that are still standing that show that there's still heavy metal toxicity inside people's homes after phase 2 is finished. I have the results of these tests. So if the Army Corps is gone, FEMA said they won't cover it. Who cleans this up? Is it me? Is it the community? And what are the potential liability and safety consequences of the community going in and cleaning this up? I've got a guy donating a tractor coming to pick up toxic ash. I don't have a burrito. I don't have a temporary disposal site. But no one said they'll clean it up. Is it MEMA? Is it HAIMA? And where is the phase 3? What is the next plan? Because Kula is not clean. We're thankful for the home sites that did get cleaned up, of course, but that doesn't mean it's done. And my question for FEMA, we know, we've been told it's not what you do. We know. So who does it? And I'm just pushing for a community advised phase 3 cleanup, a mop-up operation, just as Chief Ventura and the fire department is mopping up a wildland operation. And like you said, this isn't over. The last flare up in my yard was January 8th. So we got that deal we're dealing with too. So can we liaise with the community and go through and be like, hey, where are these spots that still need cleaning? Because right now, no one is stepping up to do it. So who is going to do it? And if anyone wants, we'll be out there 12 to 3 tomorrow cleaning up if anyone wants to join us. So anyway, my question. I'm just highly advocating for this because we can sit in meetings and say that it's clean, but those of us that are out standing there, and I've got all the pictures, I can take you everywhere. It's a mess. Scott, how much did we clean up this week? It cost me $185 to recycle metal at 3 cents a pound at Hammerhead because I had to pay $1,800 for a dump truck to come in to spend 2 days removing 7,000 pounds of scrap metal that barely made a dent. That was from 2 properties. Because just so those of you know that, the Army Corps will cover the ash footprint of a home, but the lawn, the surrounding property, anything that was outside the foundation is not covered by phase 2. So if you have a 6-acre property and it completely burned, every piece of scrap metal, irrigation pipes, corrugated tin roof, whatever was dumped there, washing machine, whatever was dumped is all still there. And there's no one to clean it up except us. And it's not covered by anything. And in these last Kona lows, I'm out there at 1:30 in the morning watching olive green and bright orange soil running like rivers down the street and through the gulches because those areas that weren't covered by phase 2 and never got soil tech are still, now they're running off down the street to Kihei. So again, what is our next step? Is it MEMA? Is it HAIMA? I'm just asking for some help because we're out here doing it ourselves. So thank you.
I think you've been advocating for that. You've been advocating for that every meeting, so I appreciate that. We don't discount it. This is partly the transition that we need to address now that our federal partners have completed their work, what they've been assigned to do and funded to do, and then it remains the gaps that we need to address. So that is part of why we're returning next week to figure out where are those gaps and where are the options for those gaps. I appreciate that, Kyle. You've been steady throughout from the first time I met you at the earlier meeting. Is there any other questions here for the evening? Okay. Okay, for SBA. Anyone else have a question? Okay, if it's okay with you, we'll go to her since she hasn't asked one yet, and then we'll come back to Uncle here. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Liz DeLion, and just to follow up to Kyle's question, I was wondering about the gulch and when the gulch will get cleaned because all that toxic waste is sitting in there. And does somebody have a contract to clean it up? And if they do, if they've been paid for it, when will it begin?
Okay, we do not have that answer for you tonight, but I will tell you that will be part of the gap questions. Kyle is like waving because I think he has an answer. But Kyle, the reason why we want to use a microphone is because we're also live streaming, so folks can't hear the question or the answer. Kyle, I'm going to let you answer briefly that question before we go to the SBA question. Kyle.
So the gulch is supposed to be covered under the U.S. Department of Agriculture, NRCS EWPP program, the Emergency Watershed Protection Program. we're still waiting. I just heard yesterday there might have been some progress on that. We heard sitting on a desk for a while, but I think there might finally get some progress made on that. $2.7 million has been allocated towards that cleanup, but that remains to be seen how much of that is going to be able to cover what needs doing. And as of right now, it may not cover the Kula facing slope of the gulch. So we're pushing for those details, but there is money that's been allocated for that, but it's hasn't totally started yet, but
Thank you,
hopefully it will
Kyle.
soon.
Thank you. Okay, to the SBA question.
Yeah, who do I ask?
Yeah, come on up.
First of all, thank you for SBA allowing us to apply for the low interest loan towards a rebuild process. But I am very confused because I spent yesterday and day before that my loan has been approved. And then when I applied for the loan and when I went down maybe 2 weeks ago to the office in Kahului, and they told me, well, it was right from the beginning, from FEMA, I went to SBA. They told me that I can take out $25,000 without any proof of receipt or anything. So I also got information from my contact in your home office. At first, it was, yes, the initial $25,000, but if anything over that, then, I need it will be a second mortgage as a collateral. Now, my question is, the initial $25,000, does that require receipts before they disperse that to you?
So it's all of the loans are case by case. I know it's a general answer, but at the end of the day, it's whatever you as an applicant can afford to pay or what you have under your name and under your home, what was burned and what was lost. We can certainly look into it since it is a personal application. I don't want to address anything that might be misinformation. So we could speak to you after, if that
Yeah.
works.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. I was just told by three different sources. And then today I get from the main contact in the home office, says, oh, you need to provide receipts. So I'm just confused as to.
Yeah, no, let me apologize. I mean, we're here to share the information, and then all of our case managers and loan approvals are off island. They're based in mainland US.
Right.
So we're just here, but we can look into it.
Because I said, the receipts for going towards construction, we haven't even started yet. I mean, we're still waiting for a permit.
Yeah.
But I was told that, immediately you can apply for the 25,000. No.
Yeah, and that's another great point. Even if you applied and you were approved, you can ask for your disbursements to be delayed. Let's say you want to wait to see what the county does, or you don't want to rebuild right away. There is still that option as well for anybody else who applied. Yeah, we can speak after.
Okay, then at this time, we will be here Councilmember, did you have a question? Yes. So I don't know if the mic reaches you that far. Okay, let's try. Sorry. Okay. Go ahead.
I've got a question for Mrs. Lauhi. So you said you were going to have vendors taking care of the permitting. Are they going to be helping the water department?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I want to hear nice loud.
Yes, we will be helping the water department with the permits. Yes.
Great question. Councilmember, you had a question? Thank you. And thank you for always being here.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for making the time. And thank you very much, Mr. Ito. I have questions for you because I don't understand your business. But so I heard some people did not have insurance on their homes. So what happens to them? One question.
Well, I can't answer that. I mean, it's other programs that the state, county, the federal government have. I mean, we deal
Okay.
with insurance. but
Okay, so if they didn't have,
those that were-
you don't deal with them. There isn't like a special wildfire fund or something that comes through.
No,
Okay,
unfortunately,
so
no.
I wondered about that. But what I really want to talk to everybody here is that you can tell the difference in this meeting in comparison to other meetings. And I hear it because I'm in council meetings and we hear people from Lahaina so sad what they're going through and this process for debris removal. Where is the final debris disposition site going to be? There's plenty of discussions that are going on. And you and Kula, I want you to know that I so value what the Army Corps of Engineers, FEMA, all of the help that they have given us and Kula. I know property owners is painful and it wasn't easy, but you are past the point of what we're just starting in Lahaina. So thank you very much for all of you who have endured. You know, you've come to meetings was so frustrating and why are you even talking to us? You're not ready to do anything and you should do more. I mean, we heard it all. But now West Maui it's even harder. So I want to commend you. Thank you, Aaron Wade. I think I talked to you the most recently and, you know, all through these months. But what you are hearing, and that's why Chief Ventura recently did an online meeting with the Kula Watershed Alliance Group. There were like 25 people listening online, asking him direct questions. But you know what you're all in? The next phase, you're all into what I call hope. Hope for the future. And the phase of West Maui, it just breaks my heart when I hear them because I know what's out there is what you're experiencing. But we as a community now can make this the next steps forward. So bear with us because it's so frustrating. You know, your question regarding debris in the gulches and what's happening, I just know that I think NRCS has a $15 million grant. I think that's the number that was actually awarded to Soil Water Conservation District. Maybe Mayor has a better handle or somebody else has a better handle for those numbers. But there were 3 other catastrophes besides your homes that built, right? So it's the Kula Watershed Alliance Gulch. There's the Olinda fire, which were 2 homes. And somebody asked me, when you're driving to Kula Lodge, all those burnt trees, that's part of the Olinda fire that happened that night. And that's another soil water conservation NRCS project, as well as the 6,000 acres that burnt that were from Haleakala Ranch, Mahipono, Ka'onu'ulu Ranch. That was grazing land that was on the way, I guess if you can describe it, like on the way to the landfill. But it was this huge acreage that I went to visit. And I said, oh my God, I didn't realize that when they're talking about the Pulehu fire, this is what was burning. And you know what the story is? The story is that night, and I heard this the day that I went a site visit with Soil Water Conservation, NRCS, and the ranches. That night, you had Goodfellow Brothers, you had these construction companies as well as the ranches with their private equipment. They did, I think, Mary can correct me, I think it was a 5-mile or 10-mile fire break. You know what that did? It saved Kihei. Otherwise, we would have a story, Kihei, West Maui, upcountry, all fires. And we don't yet talk about it because we're so into, let us get past this, one point. So I'm telling you probably more than a question, so sorry about that. But what I would like the community to walk together with is, first of all, thank, FEMA, the mayor, NRCS, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, everybody who helped us get to this point, and our endless gratitude for the night of the fire with Chief Ventura and his staff, and all of the many people who made that night, safer than what it could be. But we as a community, thank you. But we as a community, I would like to know if you would like to take the next steps, which I call hope. Kyle is calling it phase 3, but it really is a bigger picture of what you can do as the residents of Upcountry to harden your homes, to cut away. I'm going to cut away 3 cypress trees that are growing up against my balcony because of this fire. But I need to do things as a resident for my home and be responsible. So that's the kind of next steps that we're in. And I will honestly tell you that because I did this with the mayor we're working on the Access Deer Task Force. But when we launched it last year, that one of the things I knew was important was to have funding, because I couldn't ask you to do things, like put up fences or whatever you needed to do in the Access Deer if there's no funding. So government stepped in on that. But I think I need to do something like that with FEMA. Bob Fenton said that FEMA has those kind of hazard mitigation grants. Do it with MEMA. Now we have a wonderful, I think, because I had a long meeting with Amos, the emergency management, the director, and I want us as a community to walk the next steps forward. It's very frustrating, right? Because everything should not have happened, but we're at a point now where it's in ourselves, the responsibilities for safety and health is not only looking at the mayor or looking at the fire department or looking at the police department, but it's what can we do at our homes? And that's the next phase that I want to take you through. So next week when you have your meeting, if we can come with ideas, because I have some ideas and I'm going to be talking to Bob Fenton. I know FEMA administrators are going to be here on February 8th and 9th. And I would love to, he already talked to me about that FEMA has grants, so I really want to do that so that you as residents, you can't say that, how can I do that? Because it's going to cost a lot, right? So how can we, with this grant, help somehow? And I don't know really the magnitude of what it can do, but I'm going to ask in your behalf. And I just wanted to say thanks for letting me speak longer than a question. So thanks.
Thank you.
All good, thank you. I'm going to turn this over to Mayor. Before I do, Amos, our administrator of the Maui Emergency Management Agency, is off island today and unable to be here. The QR code is working now. Apologies, I think there was a little glitch, but definitely it's working. We have a number of people testing it out. And this booklet that Chief Ventura mentioned is fantastic. It's going to be up here. Please take it. It's a great resource, checklist, photos, great explainer as well. And we also want to forewarn folks, when you drive home, be careful. There are deer out there. Oh dear, watch out for the deer. Going to turn this over to Mayor Bisson to close this out, and we'll be hanging out for a little bit. Thank you, everybody.
So we come here every week to face our community so that we can acknowledge all the things that we've done that are good and the things that we have yet to work on. So I appreciate all of the shortcomings that you bring up when we come here. We recognize those and we can do a better job. The points you make remind me of things that we need to do better with our state and federal partners. The criticisms of government are the same and have been in time immemorial. You move too slow and you don't get it right. We've done everything we can to change those things, but we can do more. No one is suggesting that we're done, that it's all power, that we're clear of this and nothing else is going to happen. One of the things I've learned in the last 5 months is there are things that are important, and you folks all know what they are because you bring them up to us. And there are things that are urgent. And we've tried to distinguish those things. But what's important and urgent to us is different than what it is to you, because everybody has their own unique situation. One of the things that happens in government is you make a group decision that affects individual people. Let me say that again. We make a group decision that affects an individual. So when you get that, you say, oh, that doesn't work for me. My situation is different. I need you to do this other thing. What we're here to do tonight, what I really want to do is acknowledge the work that was done, the work that did get done, the work that we say the Army Corps of Engineers, but they hired local contractors to do the work. Maui people doing the work. Just like the people who were out there on August 8th that night, along with you, Kyle, and all the other groups that came out with their own private, machinery, not waiting on government to get there. Because we move too slow and we never get it right. So, the Corps of Engineers ended ahead of schedule. They've been ahead of schedule. EPA was ahead of schedule. Search and rescue was ahead of schedule. I can sit there and tell you all the things that went well, whether it was here or Lahaina. But we don't come here to brag about those things. We come here to ask you, what more? What are your needs? What does that say? Needs assessment. What else do you need? What else can we do? We're not done. We're not going anywhere. We're still in the early stages. We're just trying to transition. But I'm here to give credit to the people from the county, John Smith and the public works people that have worked so hard on infrastructure. Every single day, they work on infrastructure for this island. They are the subject matter experts. They are not missing the point that you folks need water, that we need to clean things, that we need roads. No one's forgetting that. They're all important, but then there's urgent. And that's what we're trying to distinguish. And yeah, we don't sit every day thinking about one thing, about one particular thing. We're trying to figure out this thing for the whole group, everybody. We have listened to places that have come to visit us from Sonoma, Santa Rosa, Paradise, all the big name places before we replaced those names. We've replaced those names. Lahaina now. But they've all come here to tell us, watch for this, watch for that. Do more of this, do less of that. I guess what I'm trying to say is everybody's working as hard as they can, as best as they can. No one's forgetting to do stuff. We're just doing something else instead of that right now. But we pledge that we are not going anywhere until that all gets cleaned up. Now, the feds might have to go because there's other disasters that occur around the United States. And we're fortunate that they've given us the focus, the attention that we've needed. We're in need right now. Our next step is when HUD comes in and the disaster relief funds, we can get more permanent funds. Our next step is going to our legislature, asking for funds. There's a process, and it's taking longer than we wish it would take. So I'm glad that the community has done what it's done. And that's always going to be the case. The community is always going to be faster than government. That's not a secret, and it's not new, and it's not unique to this situation. Which is why we work alongside you, and we thank you. There are a lot of heroes that go unnamed. You see the ones in the uniforms, easy to pick out. But they're the ones in flannel too. They're the ones that are in t-shirts and shorts. So we don't forget those folks. We need you guys. We need this help. We can't do it all, you can't do it all, which is why we got to work together. I think that's a simple message here. So let me do my job, which is to get to the governor and say, what are we going to do about these things that haven't been finished yet, while simultaneously trying to get Lahaina people back to where they want to go to. We're not choosing one over the other, you guys. We're trying to do it all at the same time. So again, our thanks to the good work that was done, but we're not done. And we're going to do more. And if it's the state, if it's the county, if we got to go to philanthropy, we'll find that out. And we'll figure that out. We didn't come here to do a half job. We didn't come here to say, oh, we did that, we did that one. Okay, we're good. We're here and we're in Lahaina until we finish it all. That's our pledge to you from the county. Thank you guys so much for being here tonight.
Thank you, Mayor.